Welcome back to ChangeMakers. This week we're doing things a little bit differently. We're going to be talking about rules-light systems versus rules-heavy systems, or as I like to call them, fluffy versus crunchy systems. So after we go over this spectrum, we're going to provide an example, and then we're going to talk about where ChangeMakers fits on this line. So let's get started. So we'll start with crunchy systems. Crunchy systems tend to have bigger rule books. They tend to be a little more math focused than their more narrative fluffy side. So big things. First off is that they're math focused. They're mechanics heavy. So crunchy systems, one moment, care a lot about their mechanics. So if you're rolling a lot of dice or you need to be doing a lot of statistics in order to run the game well, or you're caring a lot about how to optimally play, you're probably playing a crunchy system. To help support the mechanics that are necessary, they tend to be a lot more rule heavy. This also tends to lead to more straight and narrow kind of storylines. It's a lot easier to know how to stay on the same path narratively than fluffy systems, which tend to do a lot more improv and can go anywhere. Finally, to match up with these two, you also tend to have denser character sheets, as opposed to a fluffy system, which will have like maybe a note card full of for everything that your character might need. These ones can be up to 1 to 2 pages of just very tiny lines to write in and all of that. There also tends to be a lot of accounting for crunchy systems that tends to lead to a lot more heavy on the mind and a lot of stuttery kind of storytelling. So now that we've got that, let's head over to fluffy systems. So these, unlike their crunchy counterparts, these guys are mostly focused on narrative. They're really great at telling stories. Their story flow is really smooth, easy to follow, and you're not having to do a whole lot of math for it. So it's the opposite end of that spectrum. Similarly, in order to keep with that flow, they tend to have really small rules, just so that the CMs can memorize those rules really quickly. Everybody can just jump right into the story and move a lot faster. Story flow goes smoothly. Character creation is really quick. And all of that. Finally, unlike these ones, which follow more of a straight and narrow path, these ones are all about improv. You really need to know the world you're building more than you need to know the exact specifics of the rulebook. Now, clearly, both sides have their pros and their cons, but we are going to jump right into an example to kind of help solidify what these two systems actually mean. Here's our example today. We took it directly out of D&D 3.5 edition, the Player's Handbook. In this example, a player wants to play as a wizard, and they come across these centipedes. And so they want to cast Burning Hands on the centipedes to deal damage and kill off the centipedes. There's 3 whole centipedes. So we're going to see this in 2 different systems. So in the crunchy system, the player would first need to move into position. It is an actual move that they have to make. Rules and everything. So it'd be how many grid spaces are they moving. Then they would need to actually find the spell, Burning Hands, that they want to run. This would be probably in like an actual physical spell book that they have, or they'd need to go run through the rule book and try and find it, so that they know they can cast it. Would also need to be on their player sheet that they can cast the spell. After they find the spell, they're setting up move into position part 2 is what's happening, where they have to figure out that cone of where Burning Hands hits, which is another grid space math kind of thing that they have to do. After that, they deal the damage. How much damage did they do to the centipedes is their first roll. And it's like 1d4 in damage. I'm not sure exactly. It's been a while since I played D&D. Finally, the CM would then have to make a reflex save for each of those centipedes, which would be another 3 rolls. That's how you do this in the crunchy system. It's a lot of steps, it's a little stuttery, and it might take a little bit of time for everybody to figure out the math of how this quick motion happened. In the fluffy side, this goes a little smoother. The first thing that the player would do would be to declare the action. I'm going to shoot burning hands at these 3 centipedes. Now let's just put that over here. And then from there, this would also include any clarifying steps that the CM might come up with. Things like, well, how well do you know burning hands? What about the centipedes? How far are you from the centipedes? Things like that. That's all in this one step. Then the player would roll. This step would be all about determining what the difficulty target is and how well the player is going to do at it. And then this roll is determining how close to that target they actually get. So this is usually a much simpler rolling system, like 1d20 or a d6 system, as opposed to this one, which might have more oddball kind of dice, like d4s or d12s. After they roll, everyone figures out what happened, both the CM and the player. Get to figure out where it went. So if they hit the target, then it's things like, did it go well? Did it go absolutely amazing and they destroyed all the centipedes in the area? Did it go really badly? Did they completely miss their roll and it just backfires on them? What does it actually mean to hit that target? So clearly, both sides have their pros and cons. It's a bit stuttery, but it's really clear what's going on here. And on this side, it's a lot more improv. You can go do more crazy things. Additionally, this system, because they know exactly what you're doing, if you screw up at any point on this, it may just fizzle out and nothing happens, and it's not as engaging. Whereas in this way, it may just go overblown really quickly, simply because they're improvising and trying to figure out what's the coolest story you can tell. Again, both sides are perfectly fine. One's not better than the other or anything like that. It's just what kind of story do you want to tell. So where does ChangeMakers lie on the spectrum? Well, we could do a big crunchy system and have lots of rules and lots of math and statistics. We could have multiple dice rolling mechanics and things like that to help teach kids statistics, to help teach kids kind of give them a straight and narrow kind of path to follow. It's easier for prep work for the story writing for the teacher, but it would probably be a lot tougher for everyone involved to be constantly playing a heavy mechanics game. So we went a little lighter, maybe closer to rules medium. We're not quite fluffy. We're not super simple, easy to jump into. There is a little bit of prep work involved, but we are definitely leaning more towards that narrative side. So rather than rules medium, right in the middle, I'd say we're probably a little closer to just off the fluffy path. Let me just get that in there. So we're right there. Not quite all improv all the time, but we have a few more rules just to kind of help solidify those edge cases. Things like when someone wants to go to war, we have rules for that. If you want to build up a project or create a big event, we have those rules. So you kind of have steps to follow when you need to, but you can just improv your way through it if that's easier. That's all we have for this week. Next week we will be talking about min-maxing and why you should really appreciate those people. If you like what you hear or want to know more, you can like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Just click the big red button. We also have links to Facebook and Twitter in the description. You can also email us and we can add you to our newsletter. That's also in the description. That's all we have for this week, so goodbye.